It was a dark and stormy night, the kind where the wind howls like a pack of wolves and the rain lashes at the earth like 1,000 whips. In the midst of this chaos, a battle was raging. The ground was soaked with blood, and the cries of the wounded and the dying filled the air. At the center of this carnage stood King Oswald of Northumbria, a man who had once been the most powerful ruler in all of Britain. But tonight, his fate was sealed. Oswald, a tall and imposing figure, had led his army to this field, determined to defend his kingdom from the pagan king of Mercia, Penda. For years, Oswald had dominated the land, spreading Christianity and building a mighty kingdom. But on this fateful day, all his power and might would be for nothing. As the battle raged, Penda's forces began to gain the upper hand. Oswald's men fell one by one, and the king himself was surrounded. In a final, desperate act, Oswald raised his sword, but it was too late. Penda's warriors struck, and the once mighty king of Northumbria fell to the ground, his body torn apart. The victorious Penda, a man of pagan beliefs, took no mercy. He ordered Oswald's body to be dismembered. His head and limbs hung from the branches of a tree. It was a ritual act, a sacrifice to the old gods, a stark contrast to the Christian faith Oswald had championed. The tree where Oswald's body parts were hung became known as Oswald's tree, a grim reminder of the fall of a great king. But the story of Oswald did not end with his death. His legacy lived on, not just in the memories of his people, but in the miracles that began to be attributed to his relics. His head, which was taken to the island of Lindisfarne, became a revered relic, said to perform wonders. His forearm, which was preserved in a silver reliquary, was believed to remain fleshy and firm for centuries, a symbol of his enduring power. The news of Oswald's death spread quickly, and the impact was felt far and wide. In the kingdom of Lindsey, where Oswald had once annexed land, the people were in shock. In Wessex, where Oswald had married the daughter of King Cynegils, the king's conversion to Christianity was now in question. Even in Kent, where Oswald's influence had reached, the royal court was thrown into turmoil. Oswald's brother, Oswiu, who now ruled Bernicia, was determined to avenge his brother's death and reunite the split kingdom of Northumbria. He began by recovering Oswald's head and arms, which he enshrined in a new church at Bamberg, the ancestral home of the Bernician dynasty. The head was sent to Lindisfarne, where it would be venerated for centuries. Oswiu's efforts to secure his reign were not just political. They were deeply intertwined with religious strategy. He married Eanfled, a Roman Catholic princess from Kent, and used this alliance to gain support from both the Roman and Irish churches. He sent missionaries to Middle Anglia and the East Saxons, converting them to Christianity and expanding his influence. But the road to unity was not easy. The people of Dara, the southern part of Northumbria, were resistant to Oswiu's rule. They had their own king, Oswine, who was a direct descendant of the pagan ruler Osric. Despite Oswine's Christian faith, the Darans did not trust Oswiu and tensions simmered. The turning point came in 655, when Penda, the pagan king of Mercia, launched a massive invasion. Oswiu's army, though outnumbered, managed to defeat Penda at the Battle of the River Winwood. This victory not only secured Oswiu's rule over Northumbria, but also solidified his position as the most powerful king in Britain. With the imperium in his grasp, Oswiu turned his attention to the religious divide within his kingdom. The date of Easter, a major religious holiday, was a source of conflict between the Roman and Irish churches. The Roman Church, supported by Eanfled, celebrated Easter on a different date than the Irish Church, which was followed by the Northumbrian court. This discrepancy caused confusion and tension, and in 664, Oswiu decided to settle the matter once and for all. The Synod of Whitby, a council of church leaders, was called to decide the issue. The debate was intense, with both sides presenting their arguments. In the end, Oswiu, influenced by his wife Eanfled, chose to follow the Roman Church. This decision marked a significant shift in the religious landscape of Northumbria and set the stage for the kingdom's future. As the kingdom of Northumbria navigated the complex web of politics and religion, the influence of powerful figures like Aidan, the Irish monk who had converted many to Christianity, and Wilfrid, the ambitious Roman bishop who sought to align Northumbria with the Roman Church, shaped the course of events. The legacy of King Oswald, though marked by his tragic end, continued to inspire and challenge the people of Northumbria as they forged a new path in a land torn by war and divided by faith. Cuthbert, a nobleman turned monk, is one of the most revered figures in Northumbrian history. Born into a noble family, Cuthbert joined the monastery of Melrose on the River Tweed when he was about 14. His arrival was notable. He came on horseback, carrying a spear and accompanied by a servant, indicating his family's high status. Some traditions say he guarded his lord's sheep, but in a time when sheep theft was common, this could have been more of a noble duty than that of a simple shepherd. Cuthbert might have initially considered a military career, as one early biography suggests he served with an army. However, after the Battle of Winwood, where the pagan forces of Mercia were defeated, he chose a life of service to God instead. Cuthbert had close ties with the royal family and eventually became the prior and then bishop of Lindisfarne, a royal foundation. His pious nature was well known, and he even spent his final years as a hermit on the island of Inner Farne. His death was marked by a touching ritual where his community on Lindisfarne was notified by the waving of torches from the clifftop. Another important figure in Northumbrian history is Benedict Biscop. He started as a courtier in King Oswiu's hall, and later became a monk and a significant cultural influencer. Benedict made several trips to Rome where he met Theodore of Tarsus, the newly appointed Archbishop of Canterbury. Together, they returned to England, and Benedict served as Abbot of Canterbury for a time. After more visits to Rome, Benedict began building the monastery of St. Peter at Monkwearmouth in 673, using skilled stonemasons from Gaul. He later built another monastery at Jarrow, both of which were beautifully decorated with paintings, sculptures, and colored glass. St. Wilfrid of Ripon and York is another key figure. Born to a noble family, Wilfrid left home at 14 due to conflicts with his stepmother. He traveled to Rome with Benedict Biscop and learned the Roman method of calculating Easter. Back in England, he became Abbot of Ripon and was later made Bishop of York. Wilfrid was a powerful and influential figure, known for his grand projects, such as building the church at Hexham, which was said to be unmatched in its grandeur north of the Alps. The Synod of Whitby in 664 was a crucial event. King Oswiu, who favored the Celtic tradition, had to decide whether to follow the Roman or the Celtic method of calculating Easter. The debate was intense, with Wilfrid advocating for the Roman method. King Oswiu ultimately decided to follow Rome, aligning Northumbria with the broader Western Church. After the synod, Wilfrid faced challenges. He was initially made Bishop of York, but was later replaced by Chad. Wilfrid appealed to Rome, which supported his cause, but also divided the Diocese of York. This led to further conflicts, and Wilfrid spent time in exile, converting the people of Sussex and founding the See of Selsey. He also served as a bishop in Wessex, and was active in the mission to Frisia. King Ecgfrith, who succeeded Oswiu, continued Northumbria's expansion, but was killed in battle in 685. His successor, Aldfrith, known for his learning, made peace with Wilfrid for a time. However, Wilfrid's influence waned, and he spent his later years in Mercia, where he continued his missionary work. King Osred, who came to power in 706, marked the beginning of Northumbria's decline. Boniface, a later historian, criticized Osred for his abuse of the wealthy monasteries and his immoral behavior, including his involvement with the kingdom's nunneries. This period saw increasing lawlessness and a breakdown of social order, as political rivalries and violence became more common. Despite these challenges, figures like Cuthbert, Benedict Biscop, and Wilfrid left a lasting legacy, contributing to the cultural and religious development of Northumbria and beyond. In the early days of Northumbria, the land was often a place of chaos and conflict. King Ceolwulf, for example, had a brief and turbulent reign. He was deposed, came back, and then decided to leave the throne to become a monk. This wasn't an uncommon story in Northumbria, where kings often faced violent ends or chose to find peace in monasteries. One of the most stable periods in Northumbria was during the reign of King Eadbert, from 735 to 758. He ruled with the help of his brother, Archbishop Ecgbert, and together they brought a sense of order to the kingdom. Coins were minted regularly, which was a sign of a stable economy. However, even this period of stability had its end. Eadberht's son, who became king after him, was murdered by palace servants. His successor, Aethelwold Mal, a noble but not of royal blood, took the throne and managed to bring some stability during a 6-year reign. Aethelred, Aethelwold Mal's son, had a particularly rough time. He ordered the killing of 3 courtiers and was driven from the throne in 779. His successor, Aelfwold, was also murdered in a conspiracy led by Osred II, who ruled for a short time before being exiled and Tondred forced to become a monk. Osred tried to regain power, but was killed by Aethelred, who had returned to the throne. The constant power struggles and violence had a significant impact on Northumbria. The church, which was supposed to be a source of stability, often got involved in these political disputes. For example, Alcuin, a famous scholar, had family ties to the patrician Aethelwold Mal. The church also played a role in the development of a new system of land ownership called Bockland, which allowed land to be passed down through families. This system reduced the amount of land available for the king to give as rewards to his warriors, weakening the kingdom's defenses. By the 9th century, Northumbria was in decline. The famous raid on Lindisfarne in 793, though a significant event for us today, was not as shocking to the Northumbrians as the rise of Ecgbert of Wessex, who invaded and forced tribute from the northern kingdom. In 867, the Great Heathen Army, a group of Viking raiders, captured York, and the Northumbrian kingdoms were effectively ended. Despite the turmoil, Northumbria had a golden age of art and learning. King Aldfrith, who came to the throne in his 50s, was known for his education and love of learning. He was even willing to trade land for a valuable manuscript. The Franks casket, a mysterious whalebone box, shows the fusion of Christian and pagan themes and suggests that a churchman might have commissioned it. The carved stone crosses, such as the ones at Bee Castle and Ruthwell, are some of the most impressive examples of Northumbrian art. These crosses often had religious inscriptions and intricate carvings that combined Roman, Irish, and local styles. The Ruthwell cross, for example, has panels depicting the Lamb of God and the Annunciation to Mary, reflecting the religious debates of the time. The Lindisfarne Gospels, a beautifully illustrated manuscript, is one of the most famous examples of Northumbrian calligraphy. Created by Eadfrith, the Bishop of Lindisfarne, it combines Italian, Irish, and local artistic traditions. The manuscript is a symbol of the rich cultural exchange that characterized Northumbria during its golden age. Northumbria's scholars and artists were not just reproducing the culture they inherited, but were also innovating and contributing to the broader European tradition. The Codex Amiatinus, a massive Latin Bible, was another masterpiece of Northumbrian scholarship. Commissioned by Abbot Ceolfrith, it was intended as a gift to the Pope in Rome. Although Ceolfrith died on his way to Rome, the Codex eventually made it to the monastery of San Salvator on Monte Amiata in Tuscany, where it remained for centuries. Northumbria's golden age was a time of great cultural and intellectual achievement, but it was also marked by political instability and violence. The legacy of this period, however, lives on in the art and literature that continue to inspire us today. King Offa, who ruled Mercia from 757 to 796, is one of the most well-known names from the Anglo-Saxon period. He's famous for building Offa's Dyke, a huge earthwork that stretches for over 80 miles along the border between England and Wales. This massive project shows just how powerful and influential Offa was. Another impressive thing about Offa is that he was the only European ruler of his time who was treated as an equal by Charles the Great, the King of the Franks. Charles even wrote a letter to Offa, calling him a strong protector of his country and a defender of the Christian faith. Offa's influence extended to the church, where he held significant sway. At the Council of Chelsea in 789, Offa and his top advisors were present at a meeting led by the Archbishops of Canterbury and Lichfield. Offa's influence was so strong that for a while, England even had a third archbishopric, which was quite rare. Mercia, the kingdom Offa ruled, was a large area in central England, stretching from the River Thames in the south to the Humber in the north. The name Mercia comes from the Old English word Mearse, meaning boundary or borderland. This name reflects the region's position as a frontier between the invading Angles and the native British people. Mercia's origins date back to around 600 AD when a group of Anglian tribes formed a loose confederation, each with its own leader. They acknowledged a single ruler from one of their tribes, often from the area around the upper River Trent. Over time, Mercia grew around important centers like Tamworth, Repton, and Lichfield, where St. Chad established the Mercian bishopric in 669. These places became the heart of the kingdom. Around this core, smaller tribal groups emerged, each with its own leader. For example, the Riosenseton lived around the Wrekin, the Magenseton were west of the River Severn, and the Peckseton were in the Peak District. The Middle Angles, who lived in the area around Leicester and Peterborough, formed a kingdom with its own bishop. The Wicks, who controlled parts of modern Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, and Worcestershire, were the most important of these groups. They had their own kingdom and church, which the Mercians later absorbed. The tribal Hittite, a document from around the early 11th century, gives us a glimpse into the early Mercian world. It lists about 34 small kingdoms and tribal territories, each with a certain number of hides units of land. The document shows that Mercia's heartlands were the most significant, with 30,000 hides, while the Wicks had 7,000 hides, a number that might have symbolic meaning, like in the story of Beowulf. Penda, who ruled Mercia in the 7th century, was a powerful and feared king. He challenged the supremacy of Northumbria and fought many wars to expand his kingdom. Penda's campaigns took him from Cirencester in the south to East Anglia in the east, where he defeated and killed several kings. Despite his ultimate defeat at the Battle of Winwood in 655, Penda is credited with making Mercia a great kingdom. If not for his paganism and the events that led to his downfall, he might have been remembered as a legendary war leader, much like El Cid in Spanish history. After Penda's death, his Christian son Penda became king of southern Mercia. Peda's reign was short, but he initiated the founding of the abbey at Medeshamsted, which later became Peterborough Abbey. In 657-8, a group of Ealdormen high-ranking nobles restored Mercia's independence under Peda's brother, Wulfr. Wulfr was a strong and influential king, who expanded Mercia's power across much of England. He invaded the Isle of Wight, controlled Lindsey, and even influenced the conversion of the South Saxons to Christianity. However, his ambitions led to a major defeat against Northumbria in 674, and he lost Lindsey and his life soon after. Wulfr's brother, Aethelred, took the throne in 674 and continued to expand Mercia's influence. He raided Kent and fought Northumbria to a standstill in 679, recovering Lindsey in the process. Aethelred later abdicated to become a monk and abbot, and his wife played a key role in bringing the relics of St. Oswald to Bardney Abbey. Aethelbald, a distant relative of Penda, found refuge on the island of Crowland in the Fens, where he met the holy man St. Guthlac. Guthlac predicted that Aethelbald would become king, and Aethelbald vowed to build an abbey on the island if this came true. Aethelbald eventually became king in 716 and ruled for over 40 years. Despite his reputation as a cruel and oppressive ruler, he was a powerful and effective king. By the 730s, Aethelbald was the overlord of many other kingdoms in England, including Essex, East Anglia, Wessex, the Wicks, Lindsey, the Isle of Wight, and the South Saxons. He held councils in London and made land grants to important churches. Aethelbald also expanded his influence beyond Mercia, raiding Northumbria and making alliances with the Picts. He collected tolls from ships in London and controlled lands in Middlesex, which were previously under the control of the kings of Essex. Aethelbald's reign was marked by both his cruelty and his ability to maintain power in a violent age. His long rule and the extent of his influence make him one of the most significant figures in early English history. The world of Offa, king of the Mercians, is a story of power, ambition, and the shaping of early England. Offa ruled from 757 to 796, a period that marked the peak of Mercia's dominance over the other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. His reign was a time of significant change and growth, both politically and culturally. Offa's rise to power followed a tumultuous period in Mercia. His predecessor, Aethelbald, was known for his lecherous behavior and lack of a legitimate heir, which led to his downfall. Offa, a kinsman and possibly the mastermind behind Ethelbald's assassination, took the throne and set about building a powerful and stable kingdom. He was determined to secure the succession for his own family and to assert his authority over his neighbors. One of Offa's most famous achievements is the construction of Offa's Dyke, a massive earthwork that stretches over 64 miles along the border between Mercia and Wales. This defensive structure was not just a physical barrier, but a symbol of Offa's power and his determination to control his borders. The dike was backed by a wide ditch on the Welsh side, making it a formidable obstacle. Offa's reign was marked by both military and diplomatic success. He expanded Mercia's influence over other kingdoms, such as the Hwicks, Sussex, and Kent. In Kent, he faced resistance from Ealhmund and his son Ecgbert, who claimed descent from the royal family of Wessex. Ecgbert attempted to take the throne in Wessex, but was exiled to the Frankish court, where he likely encountered the great Carolingian king, Charles the Great, and the Northumbrian scholar Alcuin. Offa's relationship with other kingdoms was complex. He maintained a client-state relationship with Wessex and was known for his ruthless method. One of the most notorious incidents was the beheading of King Ethelbert of East Anglia, an act that solidified Offa's control but also earned him a reputation for cruelty. In 787, Offa had his son Ecgfrith consecrated as co-ruler, a ceremony that likely involved an anointing with holy oil, symbolizing the divine right of kings. The Mercian Church played a crucial role in Offa's reign. Offa and the archbishops of Canterbury, such as Eanbert and Ethelherd, often clashed over issues like the elevation of Lichfield to a metropolitan see and the control of the Canterbury Mint. Despite these conflicts, the church remained a powerful institution, and Offa supported its growth and influence. Ecclesiastical councils, like those held at Clofshow and Tamworth, were significant events where kings, bishops, and other nobles gathered to discuss matters of state and church. Offa's legacy is one of a king who built a powerful and unified kingdom, but also left a legacy of violence and intrigue. After his death in 796, his son Ecgfrith ruled for only a few months before dying, possibly as retribution for his father's deed. The Mercian dominance began to wane, and the kingdom eventually faced challenges from other rising powers, such as Wessex under King Alfred the Great. In the end, Offa's reign was a pivotal period in early English history. His efforts to centralize power, build defenses, and expand his influence laid the groundwork for the future unity of England. The world of Offa, with its mix of heroism, ambition, and conflict, is a fascinating window into the early medieval period and the birth of a nation.